Oh my gosh, she just tried to call 911 on my watch. Apple Watch, gotta put that thing on the water lock while handling these snakes, I guess. All right, so here we are, snake room time, right? So I gotta clean all of these, which isn't, a tremendous amount, but it is constant. It is constant. Cleaning is constant. So for anyone that doesn't have snakes for some reason that's watching this channel, know that there is a lot of cleaning to be done, especially with the bigger snakes. So without further ado, let's just dive into it. I will say, I do the hook training, and by hook training I mean I just let these retics know that this isn't food time. So I do use a hook, not really to pick them up though. All right, so first snake out is Bam Bam. He is a marble, 100% het for purple, which is a retic albinism. And this snake and I have, we've came a long way. He is a first generation captive born, so his dad was a wild caught. And that's, a lot of these new morphs and stuff like that, they're gonna come from the wild primarily, and so his father was an import, and you can definitely see a difference in his personality compared to a lot of these other retics that I have here. He's nowhere near as friendly. I wouldn't necessarily say I 100% trust him, but I will say I've put a tremendous amount of work into building a relationship with this animal, and for the most part, I'm pretty confident that we get along great. He is so he is a little jumpy with his head, but that's to be expected. But here he is. Truly an incredible snake. The natural color of these reticulated pythons is amazing, and I feel like that's often overlooked with all the morphs and everything else like that. But I mean, look at like the grays and the yellows and oranges and just the heavy blacks that come into that pattern. And then obviously the marble is really jumbling up that pattern, which is I don't know, pretty fantastic. But so yeah, there he is in all his glory. I'm gonna put him in the little holding tank, and I'm gonna clean out his home. And so, in an ideal world, again, I would love to use like a ReptiChip bedding or something like that in these reticulated pythons cages, but they really go to the bathroom constantly. They drink a ton of water and they excrete a ton of water. So it's just, I just wouldn't be confident with my ability to recognize when they go and don't go if they were only on ReptiChip. I know that it would allow maybe for some better absorption and honestly probably a better naturalistic feel for them, but I really just want to keep these snakes as clean as they can. So the paper looks boring, but I don't think the snake really cares, I guess is my point. For me, aesthetically, like, I wish I could just have a really cool setup, and someday I know I will. Someday I would like to have a big, large, massive enclosure, and the ability to hold, a bunch of like ReptiChip at the bottom of that, maybe 6-7 inches deep, where I could go in there with a shovel and clean up the ReptiChip and then replace it. That's the dream right there. So I don't know. For right now, paper is the best option for me. Woo! One down, a few more to go. Okay, so next up is Twinkie. This is the evolution of marble, and if you've been following along for too long, you know that primarily I'm in love with the marble project with these reticulated pythons. And she is a lavender sunfire marble. And you can really see that marble influence in there, just along the dorsal pattern. I mean, it's insane. And that sunfire, that just enhances the colors. Oh my gosh, she just tried to call 911 on my watch. Apple Watch, gotta put that thing on the water lock while handling these snakes, I guess. But But anyways, yeah, here she is. The Sunfire really adds a huge increase to the vibrancy of the color. It made this snake so much brighter than just, you know, your standard lavender albino. So it's pretty cool to see, you know, how these subtle genes can really come in and make a big impact even in albinism. So yeah, she is absolutely a sweetheart. This is you know, tied to Pebbles on one of the nicest snakes I have here in the dojo here. Yep, pretty cool. You know, we can rub her head. She doesn't care. Yeah, just an all-around great relationship with this reticulated python as well. But that's Twinkie. So let's get in there and finish her cage up. Essential tools right here: a nice brush and pan to get any of the stuck urates out and the etc.s. All right, that was an easier cage, wasn't very dirty, so we'll go ahead and get her put up and pull out the next one. All right, so here we go. We got Starburst up next, and this is yet again another evolution of the marble project. So we got a lavender marble motley here, and looks like she kind of had a tough shed. You know, she completely destroyed her cage because that's what they do when retics shed, and a lot of times retics shed in explosions. Like their skin is just everywhere. It looks like a war scene in there a lot of times after they shed. So occasionally, you know, you'll get, let's see, I don't know if we'll be able to see that, but you know, she has a little bit of stuck shed right there. And a little bit right here. So we'll get her in a bath if I can't just kind of get the shed off of her. But you know, here in Arizona, especially here now in the summer, our humidity is negative 4 million. So a lot of times there'll be, you know, your occasional stuck shed on some of the snakes in here. And you know, I definitely do my best to try and make sure that the humidity is as high as I can. I do have a humidifier in here. And when I notice they're unshed, I mist them down quite a bit. And that helps out so much. Just, you know, simple misting down, that's a huge help for these snakes' overall humidity levels. But yeah, here she is. I mean, that pattern is insane. It pretty much just puts all of the pattern down the dorsal, and it almost looks like just a giant QR code running down the whole snake, which is pretty amazing. You know, it's a huge combination of fighting contrasting genes with the motley and the marble. So I'm excited to see this snake as she ages. You know, the cool thing about reticulated pythons is as they get bigger, their pattern gets better because we can see more of the intricacies of the pattern. So super pumped on this girl as she gets a little older. And she's also just an absolute sweetheart. Super happy to have her here at State 48, and certainly can't wait for her to get up to size. Alright, so another one bites the dust. Through the magic of video editing, I feel like this is going really quickly. Alright, so now it's time for the exciting one. It's time to get Teacup out. So this is the Moonglow boa. And so before I get her out though, I always like to wash my hands before I go from python to boa and boa to python. Sometimes the boa constrictors can be carriers for diseases for pythons and vice versa. You know, I would be willing to bet that there is absolutely zero issue between the two, especially since she has been housed basically right above and underneath pythons almost her whole life. So I don't think there's anything there, but it's kind of one of those, I don't know, things I do. So let's go wash my hands. Also, another quick side note is I use F10. Let's see, can we get that showing up? So I use F10 to do all the cleaning. And since I'm gonna be ending up putting Teacup in the same holding bay as the other snakes, I always clean that out first before I put her in there as well. Okay, so here she is. This is Teacup in all her glory. She is about 5.5-year-old, 6-year-old Moonglow boa, and she is not the most pleasant animal. So I usually don't try to harass her too much because I don't want her to get too upset. But you just wanted to give her spotlight. Here she is. She is big. These animals are insanely strong. It is crazy how strong boa constrictors are. I feel like pound for pound, boa constrictors have to be like one of the strongest snakes. Like the strength and power, that snake is just solid muscle. definitely something not to be taken lightly. These are strong, impressive animals. Come with a lot of responsibility, that's for sure. You know, that cute little boa constrictor that you see at that reptile expo turns into a pretty large animal quickly. So there she kind of was. We'll get her out again, you know, when I get her out. But time to clean up her cage because she made a disaster in there. And so here's a quick little shout out too. I like to have in all of the cages in there something for, I guess, you know, snake enrichment. And this is something that has always been with Teacup. She's always had this giant, I believe these are like roots or something like that, in her enclosure, like essentially her whole life. You know, she had a smaller one for this, and then now this this big one here that's in that enclosure. So I feel like it just kind of gives them something to do or something to climb over or something like that. I don't know. So that's been, you know, the goal throughout the entire time I've had these animals is giving them more than just, you know, a snake in a box. It's a little bit harder with the reticulated pythons just because these boxes right now, in my opinion, are just a little too small. So that's, you know, if you've, I guess maybe I don't know, put a link to the video somewhere, but that is kind of my next big purchase is I really want to upgrade these cages to, you know, those 8 or 9 foot cages and, you know, 2 feet tall, stuff like that, so that I can really get, you know, some really cool things in the cages, like, you know, for instance, a giant root. Now this moment right here is always one of the scariest because she's in a tiny, you know, little kind of, you know, holding cell, let's call it. And so when I slide it open, I feel like she feels like she's backed into a corner already. So we'll see how this goes. All right, so here she is again in the daylight, trying to do her thing. Here she goes, wrapping around the corner. There's her head. Yeah, check out that pattern. You know, it's pretty impressive. And then the tail is just stark white. Yeah, really pretty moon glow. All right, so there is obviously one snake I am leaving out, and I am intentionally leaving her out because I am going to give her her own time to shine. And also, she's gotten to a point where she's big enough in here to where it gets to be quite a mess navigating her in and around all of the obstacles in here. So I'm gonna give Pebbles her own segment, and that will be probably following this video here. And so be on the lookout for that video because I'm really excited to show you guys how big she's gotten. I mean, she is turning into a big retic. It's crazy how big she's gotten. So really excited for that. And we got that grass, right? We got that grass in the backyard. So now we can officially do a cool cinematic shot of retic and grass, you know, something like that. But at any rate, I know this might not have been the coolest video ever, but there's a quick showcase on some of the animals here that also I feel like don't get a lot of airtime, you know, outside of the ball python projects and stuff like that. But I hope you all like Teacup. You know, I realize I kind of look like a sissy in there. I'm not really willing to spend too much time with her out and about. And you know, that's primarily probably a lot of her problem is she doesn't get a lot of interaction. And so I've really been trying to work on that, becoming more and more brave as time goes on. She's only got me once. It was a pretty sucky bite, but you know, not that big of a deal really in the grand scheme of things. So excited to kind of show her off. I hope it came out well. And so thank you all so much for jumping in along this 3-day-a-week journey we're in. And I hope everybody's having a really good morning, night, evening, whenever they may be watching this. And until next time, we'll see you all later.